Hello, I'm Michael Curry, presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church, and it is a great honor, privilege, and indeed a pleasure to be able to, on this occasion of the formal inauguration of the Matoaka Covenant and Sustainability Plan and all of the work that will go into this remarkable work. It is a joy and a privilege to be able to welcome all who are participating via the internet on this November 1st. November 1st in 1997, people gathered to commemorate not simply the Jamestown Charter of 1607, but gathered to acknowledge the pain that was implicit in that charter, the pain that called on the Church of England, which was the predecessor of the Episcopal Church that I am a part of. It called on the Church of England to, quote, convert the infidels and savages, end quote. Then presiding Bishop Edmund Browning nearly wept when he read those words and prayed and worked and committed himself and this church to work to redeem that past and to work together with brothers and sisters to create a new future. That was the beginning of the Jamestown Covenant, the new Jamestown Covenant. Work continued on that in 2007 when presiding Bishop Catherine Jefferts Shorey and a number of people gathered together and did more work on how to create the covenant in a new way, in a sustained way. And now we gather this day with the support and the help and the work of the Pocahontas Project that will put this and lead us in putting this into effect. Now on the Matoaka Project. Matoaka, otherwise known as Pocahontas, represents and symbolizes the work that is before us. Now the Matoaka Sustainability Action Plan will help to lead and guide this work of redeeming the past by creating a new future. This project will help to do several things. One, to support the quality of life in Native, Indigenous, and First Nation communities. Two, to promote and facilitate racial equity. Three, to promote and facilitate social justice. Four, to promote and facilitate environmental stewardship. The Matoaka Sustainability Action Plan is an action plan that is designed to help us move into a new future for Indigenous, Native, First Nation communities, and for all of us to join hands as brothers, sisters, siblings, as children of the Creator, as children of the God who is the source of all life. The truth is, the past cannot be changed. It cannot be undone, but it can be redeemed by creating a new future. We are not slaves to our past unless we choose to do nothing. But if we choose to work together, we can build a new future where there is plenty of room for all of God's children, a new future where the earth is honored, a new future where every human life is respected in law and in reality and in all relationships as a gift of God, as a life to be treasured, honored, and respected. We are not slaves to our past. We are not victims of fate. We are people of faith. And faith can help us to create a new future. One of my favorite poems, which I think speaks well to the Pocahontas Project support and guidance of the Matoaka Sustainability Plan for a New Future. A plan inspired by the spirit of Pocahontas, a woman who bridged cultures, a woman who lived a hard life, but sacrificed much for her people and for the greater good of us all. And she paved the way for the work we now do. And so I offer this poem in her honor and in honor of the work that we are now called to do. It's from the words of Maya Angelou. Say to the Asian, the Hispanic, the Jew, the African, the Native American, the Sioux, the Catholic, the Muslim, the French, the Greek, the Irish, the Sheik, the Rabbi, the priest, the sheik, the gay, the straight, the preacher, the privileged, the homeless, the teacher, that history, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be undone, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. May God bless us. May God bless the creation. And may God bless the generations yet unborn who will be blessed because of the Matoaka covenant.
Good day. My name is Rick Tatnall, and I'm speaking to you from my hometown, Richmond, Virginia. I'm honored to be the executive director of the Pocahontas Project, which is the organization facilitating the Matoaka Covenant that you're participating in today. Today is the formal beginning of the Matoaka Covenant, and we're calling Planting the Seed. Over the next year, we invite individuals, organizations, and communities from around the world to come and participate with us in the Matoaka Covenant and to support the Matoaka Sustainability Action. But let me first give you some background on what brought us to this point. 3 years ago, in March of 2017, I led one of 3 delegations to England, spent a magical week culminating in commemoration and events at St. George's Church in Gravesend, England, where Pocahontas is buried. We had 3 Virginia Indian chiefs as a part of our delegations, and everyone returned back to Virginia with enthusiasm and an understanding that Pocahontas just isn't an historical figure, but that she has a legacy that extends to today and is extraordinarily relevant in 2020. That year 2020 that we have this year, wow, it's been amazing. COVID, racial inequities being brought to light, LGBTQ, Me Too, all sorts of movements about equality and the right way to do things have been filtering up, and 2020 has been the year when it's all sort of happened. For me, I kind of see this as a Kairos moment. This is the right and opportune moment for us to affect change, and it requires everyone participating, everyone being a part of that change. The world needs action from its citizens, and that's one of the elements that we saw immediately in the life of Pocahontas. She was a woman of action. She was action-oriented. The gentleman behind me, Martin Luther King Jr., also very much a person of action. And to me, those are my 2 heroes and who I'm trying to emulate in the work that I do. The Matoaka Covenant has developed the Matoaka Sustainability Action Plan as a way to guide and to facilitate people's action around the world. Their individual action, collected with other individual actions, will be able to create the change that we desperately need in the world. Hope and purpose is something that's very powerful. It lives within you. It inspires you. It makes you different because of what you do. You wake up with purpose, and it's something that extends to every element of your life in that day and beyond. And we're trying to bring hope and purpose to people as a way to not only change the world, but to change themselves from within. We've developed the Matoaka Covenant as a collaborative effort for people around the world, and we ask that you investigate and experience over the next year so that on November 1st, 2021, we can together take the sprout of the Matoaka Covenant and move forward for a generation, several generations of effort to change the world and create a sustainable future for all mankind. Thank you for being a part of this, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Sego, Scanago, I'm Ginny Doctor. I'm Mohawk Turtle Clan, and I live at the Six Nations of the Grand River in southern Ontario, and I am currently the coordinator for Indigenous Ministries in the Anglican Church of Canada. However, I was raised at the Onondaga Nation, south of Syracuse, New York, and I was baptized and confirmed at the Church of the Good Shepherd among the Onondagas. I've been asked to give a short history of the Indigenous ministry in the Episcopal Church. And in order to do that, I have to go back to 1968. So I'm going to start there. It's not very long, so don't go away, don't lose interest. You might even learn some things. In 1968, Vine Deloria Jr., who was a member of Executive Council at the time, wrote a paper called More Real Involvement. And this was groundwork for a structure for Native American ministry within the National Church. It strongly called for involvement of Native Americans in the decision making. And I quote, "We seek the right to devise and direct programs which will fit our basic needs and communities in the life and programs of the Episcopal Church." Though not said, what Vine Deloria Jr. was talking about was self-determination. Remember that word. In 1986, there was a big meeting held in Oklahoma, and it was called the Oklahoma II Consultation. And I quote, "It was hard but yet joyous work in the context of renewal, expectation, and celebration. There were 7 recommendations, but the most important one was the continued inclusion and empowering of Indian and Native peoples in the decision-making apparatus of the Church." As you can see, this is another way of saying self-determination. In 1997, the Episcopal Council of Indian Ministry took a resolution to General Convention of the Episcopal Church to designate 1997 through 2007 as the decade of remembrance, recognition, and reconciliation. Each diocese was to take steps as necessary to fully recognize and welcome Native peoples into the congregational life of the Church, and it was also to include special effort toward developing an outreach partnership among Native people in urban areas. The decade was launched beginning with the commemoration of the new Jamestown Covenant. The original charter of the Jamestown settlement, authorized by King James I, called for the Church of England to convert the infidels and savages of the New World. It is generally regarded as the gospel arriving to what is now the Virginia Indigenous Nations. Pocahontas, or Matoaka, was baptized while in detention in one of the ships. The document, calligraphy on parchment, committed the Episcopal Church to strive for justice in reconciling history of colonization and suffering, and to work together to find new solutions to social and political challenges, and to expand theological and spiritual dialogue, and to stand together to honor, protect, and nurture our home, Mother Earth, and to heal the centuries of mistrust and misunderstanding. In 2007, the decade of remembrance, recognition, and reconciliation was extended for another decade. To launch the second decade, the new Jamestown Covenant Summit was held November 1st through the 3rd in Williamsburg, Virginia. This was also a commemoration of the 400-year anniversary of the Jamestown settlement. This summit, attended by many Indigenous leaders, focused on Indigenous rights, Indigenous nation federal recognition, and protection of sacred sites. This is a very short synopsis of the work done to fully empower Indigenous ministry in the Episcopal Church. Sadly, many of the leaders of this movement have passed on. It is our responsibility to become what God, our Creator, wants us to be. Ona.
Hi, this is Michael Sells. I'm an Episcopalian priest with the Episcopal Church in Navaland. I also serve a church in Farmington, New Mexico called All Saints. So this is a wonderful day to begin this journey. The covenant establishes a healing relationship between Native Americans and the broader community. So this is a wonderful thing, and I look forward to sharing the work of the covenant with my community and the broader community.
When European settlers arrived on the shores of the Diocese of Southern Virginia, there were 22 Native American tribes that were settled on this land: the Chickahominy, the Shawnee, the Cherokee, the Manahoac, the Saponi, the Rappahannock, and many, many others. They had a special relationship with the land. They didn't understand themselves to own the land, but they understood that the land was given to them to care for. They had a reverence for the planet as Mother Earth, and they tried to care for it as one would for a mother. They were witness to the settlers who came here who had a different relationship with the land, settlers who wanted to own the land. And little by little, these 22 indigenous tribes were pushed back from their relationship with the land. The psalmist tells us in Psalm 90, "Lord, you have been our refuge from one generation to another. Before the mountains were brought forth, or the land and the earth were born, from age to age you are God. You turn us back to the dust and say, 'Go back, O child of earth.'" We have become disconnected from the land, and the counsel of our God is to go back to the earth from which we came. How can we seek to rebuild that connection that these indigenous tribes before us knew and understood very well? My name is Susan Haynes, and I am the Bishop of the Diocese of Southern Virginia. We have made the decision after much prayer and discernment to enter into a document called the Matoaka Covenant. The Matoaka Covenant, engineered by Bishop Carol Gallagher, enables us the opportunity to reconnect ourselves with the earth in the spirit of the tribes who linger to teach us. This is a way for us to honor our baptismal covenant, specifically to respect the dignity of every human being, to seek for justice, and to love our neighbors as ourselves. In so doing, we are honoring the tribes which are here before us, and we are seeking to repair the land that we have scarred by trying to own it instead of to care for it. Our promise is a covenant with creation. It is a long-term covenant. Over the next 100 years, which is about the time that it would take to repair the earth, we will commit to looking for ways properly to steward creation and to honor the people who taught us how to care for it. We support the quality of racial reconciliation here in the Diocese of Southern Virginia. Through our group, Repairers of the Breach, we seek to educate about racial injustice, to offer training on anti-racism, and to take action to restore the breach. This includes all people of color, including the Native American tribes which were here when we first settled on this land. This is a covenant about social justice, racial equity, and loving our neighbor as ourselves. We are proud to partner in the Matoaka Covenant.
I'm Rhonda Taylor, and it is a true honor to be associated with the Pocahontas Project course head teacher and a member of the Matoaka Covenant with this groundbreaking initiative. I often wonder what Matoaka would think of our world with its ceaseless noise and clamor, constant distractions, chaos, turmoil. What would she ask us, I wonder? The one word that best embodies the goal of Matoaka in my mind is peace. She sacrificed the familiar, the comfortable, her culture, her religion, her customs, her people, even her own identity to promote the cause of peace. What are you willing to sacrifice in the name of peace? Peace with all people, peace with our planet. Can we all sacrifice some of our conveniences, our implicit biases, or our commitment to framing our ancestors positively at the expense of truth and justice? Though we cannot change the past, we must acknowledge it before we can move forward, the pain and suffering that was caused. If we sacrifice nothing, then we will gain nothing. We are living at a time that is in some ways not unlike the time of Matoaka. In her world, a ship with 104 smelly men and boys shows up. In an instant, everything changes. In our world, a virus shows up and everything changes. Perhaps we are not so different as we think. Matoaka promoted peace with all people, peace with the environment. She demonstrated both stewardship in relationships and ambassadorship to other nations. And we pledge to do the same. May the Creator bless and keep us, and may His Spirit of truth lead us from darkness into light.
Hi, my name is Carol Steele, and I live in Gloucester, Virginia, where Werowocomoco is located. Werowocomoco is the home to Pocahontas, or Matoaka, where she lived with her father, Chief Powhatan. I was asked to give a welcome to this All Saints event because I'm a member of the board for the Pocahontas Project. So welcome, everyone. This isn't something I'm very comfortable doing. In fact, I hate even having my picture taken, much less making a video. But it was important enough for me to put my pride down and stumble through this, because this is something that is really remarkable. The Matoaka covenant, the time to explore the commitment for reconciliation, for remembrance, for all these wonderful things that we need to bring together to heal and to learn to treat our world and to treat others better and with more love. What could be more important? So I hope that you all will, you as individuals, or you all as a church or an organization, will explore the website, explore the additional information that will be coming out, and think about if you want to be involved in the impact that you can have. This is a tough time. We are going through a lot of civil unrest, but we know it's not the first time. I just hope it's the last time that we really can live together in a more peaceful society where we're more respectful to one another. I was a young child in the 60s, and I grew up during the time of desegregation. When I was a rising second grader and my family was moving, the school that I attended was going to go through desegregation. And I remember people panicking and just being so upset about it. When I moved to Northern Virginia and lived outside of Washington, D.C., it was no issue. All the schools were already integrated. But I do remember my father and my mother taking me downtown and showing me parts of Washington where protests had gone on, and the fires, the remains of the fires were there. Now people may be driving in Richmond, Virginia and looking at the Monument Avenue and seeing what's happened there, or going to cities all across the United States and places throughout the world where there are people who are protesting and begging for change. Nobody has all the answers, and because of my faith, I'll make comments about how this is earth, not heaven. It's not going to be perfect. But what I feel that we're called to do and the way that we live our lives, I know there's a lot of room for improvement. There is much healing to be done, and starting with the indigenous people. So I look forward to hearing about your explorations, the projects and ideas and activities that you come up with, and ones that we'll be coming up with too. And we can share with each other in this global, exciting adventure. Thank you for joining tonight. And again, I look forward to hearing about all the great things that are to come.
How Matoaka be? Hello, relatives. I am Brad Hoff, the Missioner for Indigenous Ministries for the Episcopal Church and a member of the Oglala Sioux Tribe of South Dakota. The indigenous people of what is now known as the United States were subject to the atrocities of land theft, genocide, and forced cultural assimilation. We were nearly annihilated, and the Church was a participant in that tragic process, beginning with the papal decrees that became known as the Doctrine of Discovery. Today, indigenous people are still here, and we are grateful for that. At the same time, we are called to task to acknowledge what happened and how we, as the body of Christ, can best respond in a way that tells the truth, seeks justice, promotes reconciliation and healing, and brings people together in the name of Christ, who is our native Messiah. These are some of the main objectives of the work of my office. In 1997, the Episcopal Church initiated the new Jamestown Covenant, which was a response nearly 400 years later to the original Virginia Charter of King James as the Jamestown colony was being established. In this first charter, indigenous people were referred to as infidels and savages, and that is how we were treated in subsequent centuries. Since then, the Church has recognized its fault and acknowledged its responsibility. The new Jamestown Covenant called for a decade of remembrance, recognition, and reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. To quote it, striving for justice and reconciling our history of colonization and the suffering it has engendered for generations between us, end quote. This covenant was renewed in 2007 at the site of the Jamestown colony and in 2017 in Richmond. And the Episcopal Church's General Convention has acknowledged it as an important part of the work of the Church. Many of these objectives are also found in the Matoaka covenant, and as such, create the possibility of a shared bond for mutual work for the Church and Indigenous people. The work of remembrance, recognition, and reconciliation in the forming of a church and a world that is truly a beloved community is not easy. It hasn't really happened yet, but it can happen. Hope and purpose must be our motivation as we move forward. Only with the conviction that we can and will be God's change agents can we be effective. And it is with this hope and purpose that I greet you on this day with the words, Matoaka, all my relations. Pelamia, thank you.
For all the saints, a prayer for All Saints' Day, November 1st, 2020. A wondrous Creator who renews our world, you wrap the wide earth in snow blankets, sending us indoors to tell our ancient stories, to remember those who taught us to love. Make us a blessing in our time, dear Lord. Thousands upon thousands have perished, unknown to us and always your beloved. Their families grieve and ache for their loss, and we cannot comfort them as we want to. Make us a blessing in our time, dear Lord. We raise the names of the saints who have passed. We remember their touch, their laughter and tears. We hold them close though they are gone, giving great thanks for their time on this island. Make us a blessing in our time, dear Lord. The turmoil of our world can overwhelm us. Yes, saints, known and unknown, lead the way. They teach us to sing and pray in dark days and know the embrace of your loving arms. Make us a blessing in our time, dear Lord. Amen.